to race in MotoGP. Without question, the Circuito de Jerez Ángel Nieto, one of our most popular and blue ribbon events on the World Championship calendar. 4.42 kilometres in length, 13 corners, 8 right, 5 left, 7 of them named after Spanish icons, including Ángel Nieto, Jorge Lorenzo, Dani Pedrosa and Alex Crivier. Fabio Quartararo, the best race lap, 1:37.770, but he has work to do. The former world champion from 16th place on the grid. This was the classic podium battle last year between Marc Marquez, Jack Miller and Aleix Espargaro into the turn 13 Lorenzo corner. Coming up next then in MotoGP. Aprilia eyes a first win of 2023 with Aleix Espargaro starting from pole for the first time in 10 months. KTM will be hoping for more Jack Miller magic following his stunning sprint podium. A second successive win in Jerez Feature Grand Prix will put Pecco Bagnaia back in charge of the World Championship. And does more Brad Binder brilliance beckon after a spectacular sprint win? Well, those were the scenes at this wonderful Circuito de Jerez Ángel Nieto. That was at 6:30 a.m. this morning in the darkness. The lights of the mobile phones lighting up the stadium section. These are live pictures now. Those fans, most of them, as you can see, have been there for what? Nearly 8 hours. Fair to say, Spanish fans love their MotoGP. Jerez always gives us a warm welcome. They embrace the festival atmosphere of MotoGP. The temperature's rising, the pressure and the tension rising as well. Nearly 30 degrees, the ambient temperature, as we start our build-up. We're around 40 minutes or so away from the start of the 25-lap Grand Prix of Spain in 2023. Round 4 of this year's MotoGP World Championship. And in the 3 rounds we already had so far, we have been treated to some spectacular action. Kicking off this weekend yesterday was a sprint stunner. A sensational win from Brad Binder on the factory KTM, finishing just ahead of reigning world champion Pecco Bagnaia. Not a lot of spare room in the paddock as the fans lucky enough to get paddock access, soak up the pre-race atmosphere. There is the now iconic flying saucer UFO that stands proudly above the finish line here. The fantastic, love those drone shots here. Brilliant coverage being brought to you by Dorna as always. As Jack Miller, can he double up on the podium? Yesterday it was dreamland, wasn't it, for KTM? Motorsport manager from the Austrian factory Pit Barton, it was one of their best days in their road racing history. Jack Miller third in the sprint. What a show he put on. What a show all the riders put on yesterday in that 12-lap Tissot sprint. Third place for this man. His first podium in the very famous and distinctive Red Bull KTM livery. And there is a boat at stake here this afternoon. Yeah. Jack Miller had a pre-weekend bet with his wife Ruby that if he wins the feature race here in Spain, he's going to treat himself to a nice shiny new boat for Christmas. Well, he gave a good go at it yesterday for the win in the sprint. So many talking points, so much drama, so many thrills and spills in that 11-lap dash yesterday. The win went eventually to South African Brad Binder. That was a key moment late on when Jack Miller just ran wide into turn 6. Sweeping through into second place was Pecco Bagnaia. The car parks are full, the bike parks are full. There's not a spare seat in the grandstands, barely. Good luck finding a motorcycle in that bike park later on. Great to see the fans have come back in their droves here to this wonderful venue in southern Spain. Matt Burt-Lewis still be in the commentary box to talk you through what should be another thriller here in Jerez. How many last lap battles have we had? 1996, Mick Doohan versus Alex Crivier. 2005, Valentino Rossi versus Sete Gibernau. 2010 versus Lorenzo, and a certain Dani Pedrosa, who goes from the top 6 on the grid in this Spanish Grand Prix. In 2013, that epic battle between Lorenzo and Marc Marquez. Simon Crayford, of course, down on the grid and in pit lane, keeping a close eye on proceedings as well. Well, the party's already started for some people, hasn't it? That's in the stadium section between turns 9 and 10.
There's going to be some bleary-eyed faces in Jerez tomorrow morning, aren't they? Not many have had much sleep last night. Well, they're going to be partying all through the day today, and they've of course got the main event to come, and there are so many ingredients. As always, the sprint whetting the appetite for what's coming here this afternoon.
No, I'm not jealous at all. No, not jealous whatsoever of the fans getting hyped up, getting themselves whipped up, ready for this Spanish Grand Prix. As we said, the party's already started, hasn't it? In some parts of this Jerez circuit, as Lewis mentioned, a lot of fans, a fairly high percentage of this crowd here that have probably not slept a wink overnight. They partied hard. As you mentioned, in downtown Jerez, it's such a carnival atmosphere. It really is a special vibe, always a special feeling. It makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. It gives you goosebumps when you walk into this Jerez circuit on Sunday morning. In darkness, you can't see the fans, you can hear them. It's one of the great sights and sounds of our 20-round World Championship calendar. We always love coming back to Andalusia. Okay, guys, yeah, we know people are having a good time. Any more of this, I'm going to put the microphone down and go and join that lot.
No, well, they're soon going to be drowned out by the sound of a whole heap of roaring, fire-breathing MotoGP machines getting ready to head out onto the grid. So we'll let them party on for a little bit longer. But who's going to be partying at the end of 25 laps this afternoon? Yesterday, of course, it was KTM with Brad Binder and Jack Miller both claiming sprint medals at the end of yesterday's incredible 11-lap scrap. Pecco Bagnaia managed to split them in second place. But there are so many unanswered stories. Can Jorge Martin carry the late race pace? What can Aleix Espargaro do from pole position after another disappointing sprint? This guy is sounding very, very confident going into today's 25-lap Grand Prix. He's had some sprint success this year. Now he's eyeing a full-length podium.
Confident, not half. This man absolutely buzzing, brimming with confidence about his chances of winning in MotoGP. Okay, yeah, we get it, guys. Yeah, there's people out there having a lot more fun than what we are at the moment in the commentary box. Our fun is about to come, isn't it? When we get the lights out for the start of the 25-lap race. Save us some of the stronger stuff for later on this evening. The Gran Premio MotoGP Giro by Griffin de España. The atmosphere is bubbling up nice, isn't it, in the grandstands? As we mentioned, there's been some fans in here since pre-6 a.m. this morning. They like to get in early to secure their vantage points. If you joined us for this morning's 10-minute warm-up session, when immediately after that there was the special MotoGP Rider Parade, a new feature of the 2023 format, those fans in the grandstands had an absolute ball. It was fantastic. There was Mexican waves, they were on their feet, they were chanting, they were cheering, they were hollering.
Jack Miller, Dani Pedrosa on his shoulders.
It was almost like a World Cup final field, wasn't it? Cracking atmosphere, and it's continued. Valentino Rossi, well, he'd love to be racing, wouldn't he, in front of a crowd like this. Great to see the MotoGP legend, the 9-time world champion, back to keep a close eye on his boys. Marco Bezzecchi, of course, still the world championship leader. A slender 3-point advantage he has over a man who Valentino Rossi has nurtured into a Moto2 and MotoGP world champion in the shape of reigning champ, this man, Pecco Bagnaia. Some breaking news as well, actually, here in Jerez this morning. You might have seen it on social media, but Valentino Rossi, despite being a BMW touring car driver, a Ducati team owner, is now an official Yamaha ambassador. Of course, he was a multiple world champion, multiple race winner in MotoGP for Yamaha, and already, as you can imagine, the rumour mill kicking into overdrive about what this means as a potential tie-up with Yamaha as a team owner with them in the future. That's all in the future. This was yesterday at the conclusion of another absolutely phenomenal Tissot sprint race. Pecco Bagnaia doing another brilliant rescue job when it really mattered. He seemed all at sea, strangely out of sorts with no front end feeling on that factory Ducati here on Friday, but his team, they turned that bike upside down, didn't they? Moved it left, right, and they found something that made Bagnaia right in podium contention yesterday. He took second in the sprint. First in Portimao, 6th in Termas, 1st in Kota and 2nd yesterday. Bagnaia has certainly been the superstar of the sprints so far this year.
36 of his 61 points have come on Saturday afternoons this year. Bagnaia, of course, crashed out of the last 2 Sunday Grand Prix. That will be firmly in his mind coming into today's Grand Prix. And will Marco Bezzecchi retain the World Championship lead as we go to the 1000th Grand Prix at Le Mans in a couple of weeks' time? His lead, of course, trimmed somewhat yesterday. He managed to salvage 1 World Championship point, but he'll need a lot more than that this afternoon. And what can Aleix Espargaro do? His sprint woes returned yesterday, crashing out of that leading group. But the big prize, the 25 points and the honour of the Spanish Grand Prix winner, are on offer this afternoon, and he has a second chance from pole position.
His first big task ahead of this Grand Prix, or at the start of this Grand Prix, Lewis, is figuring out how to keep the rocket launching KTMs behind him, because Aleix Espargaro got that pretty off the line pretty well in both sprints yesterday, but nothing he could do about the superb launches of both Brad Binder and Jack Miller. And this is where it all went horribly wrong for Aleix Espargaro. From his first pole position in near on 10 months since he was on pole in Barcelona last June, and we know what happened in that Grand Prix, where he miscounted the laps and started celebrating prematurely, dropped off the podium down to 5th place, down and out at turn 9 then for Aleix Espargaro. Bit of a pre-race conference then going on between the two brothers. Valentino Rossi offering some words of encouragement to his brother Luca Marini, who had a real torrid time in the sprint yesterday. He just said, zero feeling from the front, couldn't stop the Ducati, couldn't turn it. He actually, Lewis, sounded mighty relieved just to see the checkered flag.
Yeah, he didn't score any points at the end of the sprint. He was beaten to the final point by his teammate Marco Bezzecchi, but Marini looking to try and right that particular wrong today. Dani Pedrosa then, a master of this Circuito de Jerez, Angel Nieto, a 3-time winner around this place. He turned up on Friday morning, and in his very first official competitive practice session since the Styrian Grand Prix of 2021, Dani Pedrosa was P1. He qualified on the 2nd row of the grid, set the fastest lap in the sprint. The phrase "still got it" comes to mind.
Old but gold. What a moment this was yesterday. Those two, boy, did they have some big battles down the years, didn't they, when they were fighting for the MotoGP World Championship. That was a lovely gesture. Valentino Rossi finding out one of his former foes on the grid to give him some pre-race good wishes. Dani Pedrosa ahead of his 297th Grand Prix. Surely it couldn't happen, could it? His last podium finish, Valencia 2017. He always has great race pace. He's a great starter as well.
If it's going to happen anywhere.
Is it written in the stars that Dani Pedrosa, on just his second wildcard for KTM, somehow gets himself on the podium? If that happens, let me tell you, there's going to be the mother of all parties from the tens of thousands of fans that are gathered here today in Jerez. But this man, as he so often has done so far this season, stole the headlines with a stunner in the sprint. It was like Supermoto meets MotoGP. It was like he was stunt riding at 150 miles an hour at times, Lewis, yesterday. And Brad Binder, for the 2nd time this year, took the sprint win. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, he gave these tyres a pounding, and he was certainly late on the brakes. Here is the braking information courtesy of Brembo. Very, very hard braking circuit. Over a third of the lap here is spent on the brakes, and you can see the 3 particular hot spots at the end of the back straight into the Dani Pedrosa corner, the final corner, the Jorge Lorenzo corner, and of course into turn 1, where the KTMs managed to secure the lead yesterday. Of course, hot temperatures here, so extreme cooling required for those brakes. Who will win the battle on the brakes? Will it come down to that final corner once again? Matt mentioned earlier on in the broadcast those iconic battles. Will we see another one in around an hour or so's time, as Fabio Quartararo poses with some of the very head honchos of the Yamaha Motor Company? But if Fabio Quartararo is going to give them a result to remember today, he is going to have to go some, starting from his worst ever MotoGP grid position.
Yeah, not the time, not the race that Yamaha wanted their big management hitters from the boardroom here, was it, with Fabio Quartararo? The first time, we've mentioned this before this weekend, since the new Q1, Q2 format started back in 2013, that no Yamaha featured in that 2nd qualifying session. And rubbing salt into the wound right now for the Iwata factory. Frankie Morbidel's a long lap penalty. Look at this. Yeah, that thud in the commentary box is myself and Lewis's jaws hitting the floor yet again as Brad Binder goes full control, supermoto sideways style. How on earth did he make that bike stop repeatedly at turn 6? He was on the steering lock, as he said. He could hear it going clunk, 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 as he was so sideways. He was on the steering lock. He said yesterday, didn't he, in the post-sprint press conference, I don't want to be sideways like that ever again into turn 6 here in Jerez. He's been the Saturday star on a couple of occasions already so far this season. The turn match winner from 15th in the sprint a couple of rounds ago, but his form has been somewhat patchy, I think it's fair to say, on Sundays. Collected by Maverick Vinales, who is right on screens right now in the main Grand Prix, finished last over the line in Argentina. And likewise last time around when he was fighting inside the top 10 in Kota, he crashed out, did remount and picked it up again. So Brad Binder has actually taken the checker flag in the last 2 feature races in last position.
And Maverick Vinales, who was not a long way from last position at the end of the first lap of the 2 races we saw in Austin, Texas, said yesterday, by contrast, it was the best start he'd ever had on an Aprilia, but it only enabled to launch him in the end of the sprint to 7th place. Alex Marquez didn't even see the checkered flag of the sprint, went down twice at turn 2 yesterday. Of course, the first of those before the red flag was assisted by Frankie Morbidelli. Here's a look then at what happened to Alex Marquez. This will be his second crash in the sprint yesterday, coming into turn 2, hard on the brakes, and just as he tapped the throttle, Alex Marquez slid out of contention. That was the second time that he'd lost control through there, and as Matt mentioned a few moments ago, that contact that assisted Alex Marquez off the road from Frankie Morbidelli earned the Yamaha rider a long lap penalty coming into this afternoon's Grand Prix.
Well, the DJs are cranking up the volume in the stadium section, and the best riders in the world on the best MotoGP bikes in the world are going to crank up the volume in about 25 minutes time when we get this Spanish Grand Prix underway. I like the drinking part of that. I'm not quite sure that the music's really my taste. I'm a little bit old for that kind of thing now. Alex Rins, you have to say, has been brought crashing down to earth with quite a significant bump after the highs of Kota, the sprint second place behind Pecco Bagnaia, and then capitalising, punishing Bagnaia's big mistake when he led the Kota Grand Prix. This man taking Honda's first victory in 18 months, their first win in over 530 days. But there's been a bit of a reality check, hasn't there, for LCR Honda and for Alex Rins. Just having major problems on the front end of that Honda. Can't stop it in the slow corners, turns 2 and 6. Can't carry any rhythm or speed through the high speed corners, 7, 8, 11 and 12. As we mentioned, it's been a bit of a crashing back down to earth for Alex Rins. He does go into this race close to top 3 in the World Championship, but 18th place on the grid gives an indication of the woes that Rins has had so far here this weekend in his home Grand Prix.
You caught a glimpse a moment ago there of Augusto Fernandez sitting in the Gas Tech 3 pit box. He scored points in all 3 Sunday Grand Prix so far this season, having a very solid start to life in MotoGP. He was in the thick of all the chaos before the red flag in the sprint yesterday, trying to avoid all the mayhem, ended up crashing himself, but was able to get back to the pits, and of course with the full restart was able to take part in the sprint and finish in 17th place. The pit lane is open then, and the riders getting ready to head out onto the grid. Of course, as soon as we receive some tyre information, we will let you know what they've gone for. Last year in this Grand Prix, every rider went for the hard front, medium rear tyre, and ensuring that you've got some rear tyre left at the end of the Grand Prix in these really punishing hot conditions might well be the difference between winning and losing at the end of 25 laps this afternoon.
Aleix Espargaro on a bit of a barren run, isn't he, after a fantastic season for the factory Aprilia team last year. He's not finished higher than 9th in a full Grand Prix in his last 8 since his Aragon podium. I've got to say, I'm blown away by these drone shots that we've got featuring in every Grand Prix so far this year and throughout the remainder of this season. A bit of breaking news, of course, if you're joining us for the first time this weekend and you've not heard that we are no longer having the longest season in MotoGP history. With Kazakhstan, we were due to go to the Sokol International Circuit in early July. Unfortunately, that has been cancelled. We hope to go there for the first time in 2024. But what we have now is a 20-round World Championship schedule as we look at the Michelin slick tyre allocation. Briefly, we saw some rain tyres, didn't we, in a dramatic start to Q2 yesterday. Bone dry though here, super hot is the weather for this Grand Prix. Soft, medium and hard fronts, soft and medium rear tyres. Will anybody go for the soft rear tyre? You think Aleix Espargaro, maybe Luca Marini might do after their struggles on the medium. Looks like Pekka Bagnaia certainly coming to the grid with the medium rear tyre as well.
Simon, let's head down to you as we get ready for the Grand Prix. Down to you for some early thoughts.
Just shuffling onto the grid with everyone now, and my thoughts are, as far as I know, everyone said they're, officially that they're going to run on the medium rear tyre. But watching yesterday, there was a couple of riders that did not drop in lap time, and I think if the temperature of the track is high enough, that basically if it's too low, the soft tears a little bit and it won't last. If it's high enough, I think there's a couple of guys that will risk it and go with the soft. It just depends how far forward they are, whether it'll make an impact.
Yeah, thanks for that, Simon. Lewis is going to keep a very beady eye on our WhatsApp Michelin group when the early time information does filter through to us. As Pekka Bagnaia then, well, he reigned supreme here in Spain 12 months ago. He won last year from pole position. He completed the gentleman's set, didn't he? Pole position, the race win and the fastest lap. Ducati's first pole since 2006 here in Jerez. Can he convert some of his sensational sprint form this season into a first podium since he beat Maverick Vinales to the checker flag in the opening Grand Prix of the season? It was a perfect way, wasn't it, to start the defence of his world title. The 26-year-old Italian. Second here he was in 2021. Moto3 podiums as well in the past and in Moto2, so it's a track that he does like very, very well. Now, it's fair to say it's been quite a tough weekend for the factory Yamaha squad. Some good news because they've signed a contract with Valentino Rossi to be a brand ambassador, but what can Fabio Quartararo do from way down the grid in 16th place? Let's come pre-race thoughts from Yamaha senior boss Lynn Jarvis, who's with Simon.
Lynn, as Matt just said, it's been a tough weekend for Yamaha so far, where you've been so strong here, both Yamaha and Fabio in the past. I imagine you're hoping for another start like Fabio did in the first start yesterday.
Yeah, obviously that's the only thing that can really help us, to be honest. I mean, to qualify so poorly, we give ourselves a huge mountain to climb. Yesterday he did a fantastic start. Then he was whatever P8, I think it was, when the race was stopped, which was a shame. But anyway, the biggest problem is qualification. I think we made a mistake on Friday morning, in my opinion. We thought, or the team thought, that they could recover on the afternoon, which wasn't the case. And yeah, it's strange and it's disappointing and not easy. And of course, on top of that, we have the penalty of Morbidelli, which in our opinion is a very unjust penalty, which just rubs, further salt into the wound.
If Fabio does manage to do that magic start, does he have the pace, in your opinion, to mix it up at the front?
I think he has the pure pace to run with the top guys. Yeah, I think we've seen that. This morning was great, but it's not a reference point. But I think the race pace is okay. The problem will be catching and passing. And that's not so easy.
Thank you, Lynn.
Okay, thank you.
Let's talk you through the grid then ahead of this 25-lap Spanish Grand Prix. Aleix Espargaro, Jack Miller and Jorge Martin on the front row, all gone for the medium front and rear combination. Brad Binder has gone for the hard front tyre there from fourth on the grid. He's got Bagnaia and Pedrosa alongside him. 3 KTMs on the front 2 rows. Miguel Oliveira, Johan Zarco, Luca Marini on row 3 ahead of Maverick Vinales, Taka Nakagami and Alex Marquez, hoping to get a bit further than he did yesterday in the sprint. On row 5 of the grid, we find the World Championship leader, Marco Bezzecchi. He starts 13th on the grid ahead of Frankie Morbidelli and Fabio Di Gianantonio. Fabio Quartararo, his lowest ever grid position in the MotoGP class, 16th ahead of Raul Fernandez and Alex Rins, who of course won in Kota. He'll have to go some to do that today. Pradel Mir and Augusto Fernandez on the 7th row, and Jonas Folger and Ike Lecuona together on the back row. So the headlines from a tyre point of view, looking at that graphic, Matt, is that everybody has gone for the medium front, medium rear combination, with the exception of yesterday's sprint winner, Brad Binder, who's on the hard front tyre at this stage.
They like to start them young, don't they, supporting MotoGP in this part of the world. I'm sure that young fan will be coming back for many more years to come. So then, as we mentioned, as the countdown continues, the clock ticks down to the race start. Miguel Oliveira in the zone. Well, the solid performance from him yesterday. Felt like he just had a little bit of a problem with the left-hand side of that front tyre in the sprint yesterday. Excellent fifth place, there wasn't it, in Kota. Still looking for his first dry race podium since the Saxon Ring in 2021 as the 28-year-old Portuguese rider. He's got a lot of support though, who've made the short hop over the border from Portimao in Portugal. Only a 3-hour drive, I think, from Jerez to Portimao, so not the most difficult of races for the Portuguese fans to get to. Now then, it was a dream day, wasn't it, yesterday? A super Saturday, to say the least, for the factory KTM team. Can they repeat that brilliance here today in the main race here on Sunday? Binder win the sprint, Jack Miller on the podium as well. Let's get some thoughts of factory KTM boss Francesco Guidotti, who's with Simon.
He is just discussing something now. And Francesco, what a ride from both your riders yesterday, but also I've got to mention what progress KTM have made with their machine. What are your thoughts going into today's long race?
I would say what a weekend for all the three riders, because Dani is with us as a wildcard, and he's doing something astonished. So I would say the three riders are doing a fantastic weekend, and yeah, we are super well support from the factory. Everybody from headquarters to the team here on track are doing a great job, full committed, and yeah, what a ride of the riders. Is no comment. The results and the video show themselves what they are doing.
Yes, especially the factory boys. But one other thing, it's looked to me that Dani does have the pace for the front if he can get the start. Do you agree?
Yesterday, yeah, he definitely has. He needs a good start, a better start, and be with the front with the leading group, stay with the leading group. But definitely yesterday he showed the pace.
Great. Best of luck this afternoon.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Francesco Guidotti. We saw that banner, didn't we, on this weekend? Sentiments that we echo. We passion our wishes to a speedy recovery. Get well soon, Mark. We are 93. That's a special Marc Marquez grandstand. Those fans would have been heartbroken, wouldn't they, to know that their hero not here this weekend, withdrawing on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. 3 separate medical teams telling him that too risky to come back at this stage from that damaged right hand he suffered in Portimao. Jerez then, well known for its equestrian arts and its world-renowned sherry industry, but right now it's all about MotoGP. Been staying in downtown Jerez this weekend. What an atmosphere it's been. As we mentioned, they do like to party, they do love their MotoGP in this part of southern Spain, and as we mentioned, if there was a roof on this Jerez circuit and this man gets on the podium, it would be lifted off. Dani Pedrosa going from 6th place. Pecco Bagnaia, then the race winner here from pole 1 year ago, a superb second in the sprint for him. Sadly, Enea Bastianini ruling himself out through injury of this Grand Prix. Let's get some thoughts of their team manager, Davide Tardozzi.
Davide, I've said it repeatedly, I'm always impressed how Pecco fights back ready for race day, and he did it again yesterday. He said he had a couple of weaknesses. Has he had a chance to, or the team, to help him fix them?
Yeah, we make some steps from yesterday that he did a good race, but I think that we did another step forward this morning in the warm-up. He's pretty happy. Today is a completely different race because different temperature, different tire on the back for everybody. So we'll see what's going to happen. I think that the start will be a bit less important today, but in the end, it will be the same guys of yesterday on top.
And one other thing, Jorge Martin, he looks like he had the pace, had some trouble, front tyre temperature. You must watch the other Ducati riders. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, staying too much on the draft of somebody, it let the front temperature raise. But anyway, it's something that they have to manage. They know this, every rider is aware about this problem, then they must know how to manage it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Davide Tardozzi. We saw, didn't we, in Termas when Pecco Bagnaia crashed out of second. Davide Tardozzi off the pit wall with his head in his hands. We saw him 2 weeks ago in Kota when Pecco dumped it out of the lead. He sank to his knees. Are we going to get a return of the famous celebration meme, maybe, from Davide Tardozzi this weekend? Because it's been a tough watch to see Pecco Bagnaia dump 45 points in the gravel trap in the last 2 Grand Prix. This World Championship picture would look very, very different without a return of some of Bagnaia's old blunders.
Well, Thriller Miller has got plenty of support. That fan has come all the way from Perth in Australia to Jerez de la Frontera to support Jack Miller. That is quite a trek. That is some commitment to come and follow Jack Miller. Jack Miller manages to reward him with victory. I hope he lobs his boots into the grandstands for him.
Well, it's been a worthwhile trip so far after Miller's front row start and a podium in the sprint yesterday. Augusto Fernandez, he's had a really strong start to his MotoGP career, as Lewis mentioned, points in the first 3 races. Now then, Aprilia, so close again, weren't they, to their first sprint podium yesterday. Aleix Espargaro starting on pole position. Maverick Vinales confident in his race pace. Let's get some pre-race thoughts from them. Boss Massimo Rivola with Simon.
Massimo, this is the second race weekend this year that you've looked outstanding. Aprilia's level, and but so far the results haven't come. Is today the day?
Can I tell you in an hour? We have the pace, we are competitive. We know that in case of Aleix, he start P1, but probably he will not be P1 at the first corner, because we saw KTM in particular quite amazing at the start. Today I think it will be everybody on a medium tire and nobody using the soft, so conditions should be more equal for everybody, more interesting. Let's see also for Maverick, how can he recover. I hope after a good start, I think anything is possible.
One more thought, Miguel Oliveira. It seems to me that it's only a matter of time before he stands on the podium. Your thoughts?
It could be even today. I would say Miguel is quite impressive considering the amount of mileage he has in that bike. So he was straight away super fast in Portimao. Maybe someone could have thought, okay, that is his track, but then he was fast everywhere. So I'm really looking forward to see this race. We are competitive. We are part of the group. I know it's quite difficult for the riders that stay behind to control the front tires. That is something quite delicate, but let's look positive.
Thank you, Massimo.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Massimo Rivola. Aleix Espargaro in pole position, in prime position when you look at recent history in Jerez. 7 of the last 10 wins in the feature race have come from pole position. And since 2000 here in the Premier class, nobody has won from lower than 5th place. Well, he's got his supporters in the grandstand, hasn't he, Valentino Rossi? There's still a lot of yellow in those grandstands, aren't they, when you come to any Grand Prix? And the boss is in town. What can Luca Marini deliver in this 25-lap race? It's been a bit of a rollercoaster season so far, hasn't it? His teammate on the Muni VL46 Ducati, Marco Bezzecchi, despite his scary crash at turn 2 at the start of the first sprint yesterday, a big impact on his left-hand side. He's 3 points clear of reigning world champion Pecco Bagnaia in the championship standings.
Quick update on the tyre information that we brought you as we ran you through the grid. Of course, as we showed you that, there were a lot of medium tyres on this grid. Everyone had gone for the medium front, medium rear, with the exception of Brad Binder. We can now confirm to you that the South African, the winner of the sprint yesterday, has also made the change. He switched from that hard front to the medium rear tyre. So as it stands at this stage, with 10 minutes to go until the start, every rider on the grid has the medium front, medium rear combination.
Just as we like it then, a straight showdown as it is between the Michelin tyre battle. Fabio Quartararo then plonks himself on top of that somewhat wayward Wisdar M1. Just can't get a good feeling with the front end, particularly in the hotter conditions in the afternoon. A few old Diablo fans in the grandstands. What can Quartararo do? He's been struggling. Qualifying has been his Achilles heel so far. Starting no higher than the 3rd row of the grid. He's got a smile on his face. He won a big result. He wants some confidence to take into his home Grand Prix at Le Mans in 2 weeks' time. Difficult racing prospect for his teammate as well, Monster Energy Yamaha colleague Franco Morbidelli, after his, well, she was thought it was too aggressive move with Alex Marquez at the start of the sprint. A long lap penalty coming the way for Morbidelli. So if this race was not difficult enough as it was, it's got even harder for the Italian, as he'll have to come through the long lap penalty loop at turn 13. We're going to take a short pause now for the Spanish national anthem.
rousing rendition of the Spanish national anthem from the Alvarez Bike Beta Orchestra of Jerez. Jorge Martin sounds very, very confident going into this afternoon's 25-lap Grand Prix. To tell us what we can expect from him and his teammate, Johann Zarco. Let's hear from their team manager, Gino Borsoy, with Simon.
Yeah, same thinking, Lewis. Gino, we really want to hear what you think is possible for Jorge Martin and Johann Zarco today.
Well, about Jorge, well, we decided just now to change our idea on front tire. We swapped from hard to medium as always, so we think that the temperature of the asphalt today is good for the medium front, 10 degrees less than yesterday, so could be the right decision. Let's see, because he liked normally the hard tire in front, and for the last part of the race maybe was a right decision, but well, we have to fight him with the same tools as everybody, and let's see what's going on then.
But your feeling on your riders' pace today, if they get the start?
Well, honestly, I have really nice feelings with both riders, because even Zarco yesterday showed a really nice pace. He lost at the beginning of the race, but then at the end of the race, the difference between the first group and his position was like nothing. So I'm pretty sure he can manage better than, as we know, the rear tire better compared to the other rider. Maybe he can have an advantage, but let's see.
Thank you, Gino. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Gino Borsoy. What a helicopter shot that was as we look just outside of this Circuito de Jerez Angel Nieto. There's no free spaces in that bike park. The fans were flocking to this venue in the early hours this morning. Pecco Bagnaia fans looking on. Will their man deliver to make it back-to-back wins in the Spanish Grand Prix? Just have our comedy box window. We've got a Mexican wave going on. And what lies in store for this man then? Maverick Vinales starting from 10th place. He feels like he's got podium speed, but it's going to be getting his way through, and with front tyre temperature and front tyre pressure a concern, will that be a significant factor in Vinales' hopes of carving his way through the pack?
Yeah, the Aprilias need to get off the start line. That's not been a problem for Brad Binder or for the KTMs in general. In both starts we saw yesterday, the initial start of the sprint and then the restart following the red flag, the KTMs absolutely stormed off the line. Binder and Miller went straight to the front of the field, so Aleix Espargaro is going to have to go some to maintain that lead off the grid.
Mooney VR46, they had a tough sprint yesterday. Marco Bezzecchi down hard in the first sprint, salvaged a point in the second one. He still leads the world championship. Let's get some thoughts of his boss, Pablo Nieto.
Pablo, you're two young, charismatic, likeable riders. How strong do you think they are in today's longer race?
I think we can make a very good race. Now, Marco is not 100%, but anyway, I think I have very good feeling. I hope that we can make a very good race. Yesterday he made a amazing race after the crash with all tires, so it's very impressive yesterday. Now it's a completely different race, let's say.
Okay. Best of luck this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Pablo Nieto. Will Mooney VR46 Racing Team's fantastic start to 2023 roll on here today in the full-length Spanish Grand Prix? They've had 5 podiums already so far this season. They're the runaway leaders in the early team championship. 22 points clear of Prima Pramac Racing. 2 independent Team Ducati teams leading the team standing. It just shows you, doesn't it, how competitive Ducati have got there. 8 bikes in 2023. Aleix Espargaro, you feel like he's due a big result. Is today the day where he stands back on the top step of the podium? A full year now since that breakthrough victory, the unforgettable scenes. His and Aprilia's first victory in Termas Rio Hondo in Argentina just over a year ago.
And this is one they all want to win, particularly if you are a Spanish rider. Aleix Espargaro, of course, took a pole position. The last pole position we saw from him was at another of his home Grand Prix, the Catalan Grand Prix in Barcelona last season. That, of course, ended in despair for him. Despite the difficult start to the season, with Aleix Espargaro only picking up 18 points so far this year, none of that will matter if he can call himself Spanish Grand Prix winner in 25 laps' time.
14 wins for Spanish riders in the Premier Class in Jerez, including current HRC team manager Alberto Puig back in 1995, the first home Premier Class win for a Spanish rider in MotoGP. Can Jorge Martin repeat that feat then? The Prima Pramac racing rider. He starts from the front row. The 3-minute board goes up. The safety car, the BMW safety car, peels away from